One man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. This is what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the case of Cohen versus California more than 50 years ago. When deciding Cohen versus California, a case in which a man was prosecuted for saying "fuck the draft," Cohen was acquitted of his alleged crime due to his only crime being expressing his opinion. 50 years on, you would think our government would be well aware that prosecuting people for speech alone is a violation of the Constitution and just downright petulant. Unfortunately today, we are bringing you news of a story in which a military veteran was prosecuted for using his vocal cords to produce words that an agent of the state found offensive. The video you are about to see depicts the arrest of popular YouTuber Flex Your Freedoms, arrested for interfering with a police investigation. Here is that video now.
Hey, there's a search warrant being executed on this property. You need to leave the property.
This is public. Don't touch me.
There's
what the
search
are you
warrant
doing?
for this property.
Don't touch me.
Go.
Don't touch me. You're gonna push me in the street. Dumb. Name and badge number now.
Lieutenant Gertz, G3716.
You don't know who you're with, boy.
Obviously not.
Stupid.
Is that your badge there?
Yeah.
Search warrant being executed here, so you don't have the right to be here.
I'm in public. You push me in the street. You dumb. You pushed me there, dumb.
Over to your house.
No.
Okay.
Off. I know my rights, dumb. You don't know who the fuck I am.
I could care less.
So leave me the fuck alone.
There's a search warrant being executed.
Why are you fucking touching me? What the fuck?
Get
fuck
off
are
the
you
property
doing?
and get out of
The
the
fuck are you
street.
doing, you dumb fuck? I can videotape.
Right here.
This is my property. Don't touch me.
This is on your property.
Don't touch me.
Back up.
You pushed me in the fucking road.
I'm not gonna tell you
recording.
again.
I can
Good.
record
I'm recording
this.
too.
I can record. Guess what? Live stream, dumb. But you don't know who the fuck I am.
Stay over there. Come out in the street.
You want
and
to
you're
fuck?
going to jail.
Oh, I'm in the street right now, dumb. What
No
you gonna
shit.
do, pussy? Nothing. Coward.
Stay back and you'll be fine.
I am dumb. Shut the fuck up. That's in public, dip. Your investigation's right in there, dumb. Think you get assault just innocent bystanders that are in public? What do you want?
You can stand out here and talk.
I can talk all I want. First Amendment right.
Okay? You
Oh, I
can't
can't swear?
Are you ladies offended by his
Oh,
body?
He's fine.
What he's saying? Just let me know.
Yeah, you're a tyrant. Suck my.
Okay,
Hey.
that's it.
Yeah, arrest me, huh? Disorderly.
When men are put into cages for expressing a dislike towards public officials, it tells you a few things. First, that you are no longer free. Second, that we have become a country governed by men, not laws. And third, that you should be concerned. Concerned for your own liberty and the liberties of your children. We at the Henry Media Group think that if government is arresting somebody for using their speech alone, it is all the more important to hear what that person has to say. So we landed an interview with Flex Your Freedoms. An interesting conversation was the result. Enjoy. We are with Flex Your Freedoms. Flex, thanks for being here, brother. How you doing?
Hey, doing pretty well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Why don't you tell us about yourself, tell us about what you were doing before you got involved on YouTube, and maybe tell us a little bit about what you kind of did and what you found out after you started YouTube.
Yeah, so as soon as I was 18, right after high school, I ended up joining the Army. I earned my airborne contract in the Army. You had to get like top 5% in your physical fitness tests that they do there. So I got to pick between Special Forces, Ranger, or Airborne. And I knew I was pretty stupid. I couldn't do Special Forces or Ranger. So I was like, you know what? Let's jump out of airplanes. So I did airborne school, did all that. And then my orders got changed straight to Italy, which was pretty badass. That's like the place everybody wants to go. So I was pretty pumped. As soon as I got to Italy, it found out that my unit was actually deployed to Afghanistan. So as soon as I got there, a week later, I'm in Afghanistan. And so I did my first deployment, my first week there. We ended up driving over an anti-tank mine and it ended up blowing directly underneath me.
Wow.
That stuff was pretty wild. I've been in over 50 firefights where you're getting shot at and you shoot back. And then I hated the Army the whole time I was in, but we had a new group of guys that came, and they all wanted me to go on the deployment with them. But I was like, oh man, I hate the Army. I want out. This stuff sucks. But I was like, you know what? I'll extend my contract just so I can make sure that everybody comes home safely. Well, my first month in on my second deployment, one of my buddies, we had a big firefight going on. They shot an RPG and it ended up blowing up 3 feet above my head. Um, the shrapnel ended up killing my friend right next to me, wounded everybody else in the little connex that we were in, and I just had shrapnel that hit my American flag. So, rude awakening for my second deployment. And like I said, I've been in well over 50 firefights, and it messes with your head big time. And then I ended up getting out of the Army after that, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I used my GI Bill. I've been to I majored in a bunch of different things throughout college. Like, I don't know, I think I had 6 semesters in different majors. So I tried figuring out what I wanted to do. I even did EMT to try that out because I wanted to be a firefighter. So I tried the EMT thing out, passed through the school, everything. And that was not for me. And plus, they only paid you like $11 per hour in Colorado, which is insane. Like, you cannot live off
Okay.
that. You could get a
No.
gas station job and make more. And
Yeah.
so I was like, well, that's not going to work out. I've done many security jobs, worked in the cannabis field on security. I worked at a casino, but eventually I found a job working RTD, which is public transportation in Denver. I worked up at DIA, the airport. Uh, I worked in RTD, just as public transportation. I was the security nerd that had the gun on that would be on the trains for public transportation. Just worked at DIA. So every day I was working side by side with police there.
Okay.
Started shooting the shit with the cops, and back then I was a big, a big police supporter because at the time, really, cops haven't done me dirty, so I didn't have bad experiences with them. And then I always thought, you know, things would be all right if people just complied, because you hear that a lot. Just comply with the cops, you'll be fine. Comply, comply. So I had
Right.
that belief going on. And while I was up at the airport, my security partner, he used to always play these, what is known as the First Amendment audit videos. Well, I started watching them, and at first I was like, what the hell? They're kind of just antagonizing police, like, what is this all about? But then I started to realize, you know what? They're just standing up for their rights, and rights cannot be messed with whatsoever. That's their freedom to do it. And then I just started watching more and more, and I noticed that the rights weren't being taken seriously whatsoever. They're getting trampled on left and right. And I ended up leaving that job after, the COVID shit happened. And um, I, on my 30th birthday and right before it, I just started watching more of these videos. And I was like, that's a cool, very interesting way to stand up for your rights. And I needed to do something because I seen how corrupt our government actually is. And, from my friends that have died, many of them just pass away. Either they took their own life or got, killed in war. And I knew that we all swore an oath to the Constitution. Maybe not at the time, we didn't really take it too seriously because we all thought we were fighting for the land of the free. We all thought that. We all thought America was the place to be. I cannot wait to get back home. But then once you got home, you found out not really many people gave a shit that we were over there fighting. And, after dealing with the PTSD and everything you get from war, you just found out that America is really not the land of the free at all. So I wanted to do something. Once my 30th birthday hit, I was big time watching Amagansett Press. He was one of my go-tos when I started. Then there was Auditing America. I was watching that nerd, even though his were questionable. But at the same time, I understood that, hey, this guy, he might go about it a little bit different, but he's in the right. He's just exercising his rights. So on my 30th birthday, I ended up buying a big Canon camera, and then I had a little crappy phone. And so on my very first video, I went straight to the Adams County Sheriff Department in Colorado. and I started filming the cars in the parking lot. And it only took maybe about 3 minutes before a group of cops came out there, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you filming?" And of course, if you've never done it before, your heart gets kind of like going crazy. You're like, "Oh, damn, what the hell? What's about to happen?" And so they were questioning me, trying to say that I'm committing certain crimes and whatnot. And I just started punking them from everything that I learned watching these auditing videos. And then they asked for ID, and I did the classic, gave them a fake I and a fake D. And that video ended up going viral on my very first video. Lackluster helped me out. San Joaquin Valley Transparency helped me out. So I had a base of 3,000 or so subscribers off the bat. And that's kind of where the whole thing started, because I wanted to stand up for our rights, and I wanted to honor my friends' ultimate sacrifices, and make sure it wasn't in vain. So that's kind of where we started out. And now fast forward 3 years, we're in freaking Iowa. Like, I don't want to be in Iowa, but somehow I'm here. And I've already had to do a jail stint for free speech. I got arrested before in Muscatine, Iowa's grandma for trespassing in a public building, doing nothing wrong. So I had quickly learned how corrupt America is. And, somebody has to stand up for our rights. I had to do something about it. I wish more people would, but we're fighting such a corrupt system that's out to get us, and trying to silence us. Anybody that wants to stand up against the system. So, here we are.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a very interesting thing. When you were telling me, I was getting chills, getting goosebumps all over my arms because, man, it really is incredible to hear your story. By the way, I'm extremely sorry for your loss that you suffered and your friends over there in Afghanistan. That sounds tragic, but it really makes it extremely personal for you, and in a sense that it's not for most people who go out and perform activism. You've watched your friends die fighting for these freedoms that you're supposed to have. And when you
Yep.
come back home and you just try to enjoy your freedoms, you try to, as your channel name says, you try to flex your freedoms, then obviously you have some adverse results from that. And I want to get into that. So can you tell us a little bit about the day of your arrest? I watched it just before we came onto this live stream. I'm talking about the one 2 years ago or so. And as soon as the guy says, "That's it, you're going to jail," the live stream cuts off at that point. Can you tell us a little bit about the process in that? Was that your first time going to jail?
Yeah.
What was the process like after the camera cut off? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah. So, this would be my second arrest, even though I was just in an intake for arrest like 6 months prior to that, only for maybe 6 hours or so. But
Okay.
yeah, I was just out there videotaping my neighbor, who who had about 15 cops on him, and I had to grab the camera and just start videotaping from a public spot 50 feet or so away. And yeah, once I ended up getting arrested, once I knew that I'm going to go to jail, I just hit the stop on there so he couldn't have access to my phone, and tried to either delete footage or whatnot, because that's a big thing they will try to do. Luckily, I did have live stream capabilities, and it was uploaded anyway. But yeah, I just killed that video off so we could
Understood.
actually have it on record.
Understood. So how long did you sit in booking on this particular day?
That particular day, I believe that I had 8 hours that I was stuck in there. Luckily for me, I had some friends, Illinois Tyrant Patrol or Illinois Tyrant News and Dangerous Liberty, that came all the way up from Illinois. They watched the live stream and they came up and bailed me right out after about 8 hours
Wow.
or so. And it's miserable because at the time, it was hot outside, but I was sweating so bad in that outside that once you go inside a freezing cold cell and you have that much sweat on you, it gets double as cold. And they put
Yeah.
you in cells that are maybe 50 degrees in there, which doesn't sound too bad. But when you're in there for 8 hours, no blanket and just a wet t-shirt, oh, it's like a little torture. And yeah, that was miserable. And after that, I said, you know what? If I'm going to go back in there, I'm going to train my body. So every single day I put my air conditioning on full blast just so I could get used to the cold. So I didn't have to deal with that miserable like torture, when I had to go
Ab-
back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that sounds awful. Can I ask you, do you know the name of the prosecuting attorney in your case, in the case that we're discussing here?
I have the name on my video. I cannot remember who exactly it is right now off the top of my head, but I know it's in the video. I put his name up there at some point when I put his picture.
Yeah. Can I just ask your personal thoughts on that? Well, I guess it would really be your professional thoughts on this guy who took an oath to uphold the Constitution and then actively tried to prosecute you for using your vocal cords.
Yeah, I mean, when the arrest happened, the next day I ended up watching it, reading through the comments, and everyone's like, "Dude, you'll be just fine. They're gonna drop charges. You don't have anything to worry about it. They always drop charges." Well, that was not the case. Not the case at all, because when they don't like you, if you're standing up for your rights or whatever, they're going to go at you no matter what. They and I found out the hard way that it seems to be about 95% of either police officers, judges, DAs, whatever they may be, politicians, they don't know jack about the oath they all swore. They don't know anything about that oath, and if they do, they don't care. They love the power. They're going to just violate it anyway. It's all it is a little ceremony of nothingness. So yeah, once he ended up pursuing the charges, I was like, wow, really? Okay. Well, we're going to have to fight this one off. And I was pretty confident that it should be a breeze. Well, you know, it did not turn out to be that whatsoever. I had so many things stacked against me that made it so unfair. And it's one of those battles that you could be right by the law, it could be you're right, but at the same time it really doesn't matter, because they can manipulate the law any way they please to fit their narrative and to make you lose. They could fill the jury with whoever they want, whether they go to have hold blue line rallies or something and have people sign in. It's a great way to get the perfect jury pool right there. I believe that happened with me, and I know it's happened to other people that they just want to silence.
That sounds that sounds almost scary to me that
Oh
that they
yes.
can do that in an American court in today's age. But of course they can do it, right? They can do whatever they want. So did the prosecutor in your case, did he try to bargain with you? Did he try to get you to compromise with him in order to maybe get the charges dropped or lessen the charges? What was that like?
Well, the first thing I told, first I had my very first public pretender or public defender, whichever you want to call them. I mean, they're really only good at getting those plea offers for you. That's about it. But
Yeah.
the first lady I had, and I read the statute perfectly. It says, that verbal harassment's not part of it. There has to be a physical act, whether an obstacle or whatnot. And I knew that I didn't, I'm good to go on that end. However, she said that I would be found guilty most likely because I was cussing at a cop. And so I completely disagreed with her. She ended up dropping me, and I had to get a new public pretender, which was some man that worked there. And he's like, you know what? You didn't commit a crime. And it looks like, yeah, you did just get arrested for your language. And I told him, I'm not going to take a plea offer because I didn't commit a crime. I'm going to fight this all the way, and I'm not just going to take a plea if I'm exercising my rights, because all that's going to do is hurt everybody else, because it's going to send a message that, you know what, they can get away with this no problem. And you just got to, take the plea. And that's not something I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, and I have massive respect for you for that. Even though you did lose, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into maybe the jury trial. We can elaborate on that. But I have great respect for anybody who does get wronged by the state, which is in America, the state is the most powerful institution in the world right now, and they have the guts to stand up to that power and say, well, if you want to try to do this to me, you're going to have to take it all the way. And that's something that I think is very respectable. There are a lot of people that will laugh and mock, but I think that's an evil thing. So, my next question for you is, can you elaborate on that jury trial. Can you tell me a little bit of the highlights, maybe what the prosecutor's argument was, what your attorney's argument was, and then, the jury's
Yeah.
decision after that?
Yeah, so I noticed quickly that the jury pool that we had to select from, we asked some basic questions from, raise your hand if you are friends with police officers. That was the first thing we said, with well over 2/3 of the jury raising their hands. So we're like, oh shit, we're at a bit of a disadvantage here. And then we asked, raise your hands if you're personal friends with these very police officers that work in Waterloo, and many of them raised their hands. So you only have, you can't pick your jury when you do it, but you can eliminate some people from the jury selection. So we were trying to just eliminate as many bootlickers as we could, but when your whole jury for the most part is filled with bootlickers, you don't have much of a chance anyway. There was a city councilman, and by the way, my neighbor was black, so we live in like kind of the hood part of Waterloo where a bunch of stuff goes on, and we figured, if this city councilman, um, we thought he would be for the people, because he was elected by him. It turns out that was completely wrong. The jury, we ended up having a jury pool of 6. We only could eliminate so much, and one was a city councilman. We couldn't eliminate him. We didn't have any more left. So he was on there. Um, and we thought, you know what? I believe we have a chance that he'll do the right thing. Well, until we heard him say, I will be hesitant to side against the police because I work with them. And so that was like, oh shit, well, this is already not turning out too hot. And so we ended up going to do that. We found that, the judge, every time the prosecutor wanted to, say, hey, bring up, I forget the word for it. What's that word that you say that, um, like when you're object? Okay. So, the prosecutors were objecting to a lot of the things we were saying, and the judge was agreeing with them. And then anytime that we tried to object, they denied it. So you could already tell that, that they had a big favoritism bias in the case itself. They didn't want to hear case law. They didn't want to bring up the Constitution. Um, and the big point was, before before the whole, like, we tried to say, what point did I interfere? And they could not bring up a point whatsoever in any of it that I interfered. They couldn't pinpoint where I committed the crime. They never could. And they were making things up to fit their narrative, saying, and I was on public property the whole time, mind you. They said that I could have jumped over the fence and messed with some evidence. And like, it's like, how does that make any sense? I was literally videotaping the whole time. You had 15 cops out there armed to the teeth that were watching. You had many people walking back and forth through the scene, the active scene, that were family members. They would be the ones that would try to, mess with evidence, if anything. But yet they picked me because I was videotaping them and I was cussing at them. But I started, I was getting shoved around, and for me, I'm 100% disabled through the military from PTSD just in itself. I have many other problems, but so when another man puts hands on me, I go into the fight or flight mode pretty fast, and I can control myself from physically putting hands on somebody else. But my mouth, instead of doing my lighthearted comedic approach, I just started cussing at them, and you could tell they didn't like that, and they didn't want me videoing, so they were just pushing me around. Um, and ultimately, that's how I got arrested, was for my speech. After um, I called one of the cops, he tried soliciting a disorderly conduct against me, and everybody around me is like, no, his language is fine. And I was like, yeah, you're a tyrant, suck my dick. And then he arrested me. He said, all right, you're under arrest. Tried to get me for disorderly. They knew that would fail. They changed it to interference, and they manipulated their way for the physical act that happened when I got pushed. So I didn't cause it. They did it to me. And it was just a shit show, really.
So,
And
so let me get this
unfair.
straight. The statute that you were charged with, the interfering statute, requires a physical element.
Yep.
And they're saying that the cop physically making physical contact with you was
Yep.
you interfering with them.
Yep. So that means if a cop comes up to you and touches you, you could be charged with interference just for that and be found guilty just because he touched you. So I didn't make any obstacle whatsoever. I was 50 feet away from the freaking arrest, but yet I got charged with it and found guilty. And the judge wouldn't let us clarify when the jury asked during deliberation. The jury asked, "Can you explain the statute for us again?" They wouldn't let us. He'd said, "No, we can't. It's already been said. We can't go over that again." So we couldn't even clarify things because they were wondering about that physical contact or obstacle, and we couldn't even make our voices heard for it.
Yeah, that seems, I mean, maybe everybody can let us know in the comments below whether they think that sounds like a fair trial to them. Can I ask you, in Iowa, are court proceedings recorded, and are those recordings public records?
So our trial was audio recorded only, no video. So
Okay.
I still have to pull that audio from them, and then I'll obtain that. For public record wise, I'm not quite sure because I believe in Iowa, the Iowa Open Records Act, the judicial branch is just completely separate from the FOIA if you're trying to FOIA something. So unless if you're either doing, for discovery purposes, then yeah, you could get it. But other than that, I bet they're going to try hiding it and not, give it our way.
Okay. Yeah, and that sounds just like what my experience has been like in the past. How long did this trial last from
So
the jury selection to the jury's verdict?
yeah, so it was a 2-day trial. We got through most of about most of the whole thing from the jury selection and whatnot on the first day, and then maybe about half the day it was spent on the second day, and they came back probably within 20 minutes to find me guilty.
And are you aware of what the ratio was? Was it a unanimous jury?
I think it was a unanimous. Yeah, got 6 and 0'd. So
Okay.
for whatever reason, they all decided, yeah, I'm guilty. My language was too much for them.
Okay. And that is a disturbing prospect in the in the United States. And so that leads into my next question is, in your opinion, how do they do this? How do they secure a conviction like this in America? Do you think it has something to do with perhaps the public school? Do you think it has something to do with propaganda on the TV? What is your opinion? What do you contribute this to?
Well, I do believe both have a certain role into it. I mean, if you look at the public schools, when I went to school anyway, I didn't learn jack about the Constitution. I don't know if others did, but for me, I didn't learn anything about it while I was in school. I didn't know what rights I had. I just knew, hey, we lived in the land of the free. That's what I'm told. And then if you go watch TV, the news, they're all they all for the most part support the police and like the narrative of, yeah, just comply, you'll be fine, the just comply thing. But yet I found out that the mass majority, the high 90% of Americans, they don't know jack about what freedoms they have while living in the land of the free. So it is a big education problem. There's a reason why they don't teach police officers after that oath what that oath is even about. There's a big reason for that. Because if you don't teach them, it doesn't exist. Because if no one's going to stand up for what they don't know, we don't have rights in this country. Clearly, freedom of speech just goes off people's feelings. It does not exist. It's a horrible, horrible thing. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. I don't know how you can manipulate that in any way to mean, yeah, but we can infringe it a little bit doing this and that. Really, I mean, the Constitution just is not a thing that really exists in America, and our rights are just a big illusion.
That is a very interesting take, and I think I'm inclined to agree with you. So I want to know, where can people find you on YouTube, on Facebook, or do you have a Facebook, a Twitter? Do you have any other social media accounts that we can find you and follow
Yeah.
you on along your journey?
So just on YouTube, Flex Your Freedoms. I have this channel that I've started 3 years ago, as of yesterday. I have we made a Twitter. It's Butt Crack News Network. That's I do a whole BCNN. That's who my news organization is, Butt Crack News Network. Um, so we do have a Twitter on there. I have a buddy that operates that. Somebody jacked my account on Facebook. They have like 20 some thousand followers on it. That's not me. But
Okay.
other than that, and then I made a Rumble as well that has maybe 100 people on there. But mainly just YouTube for the most part is where I post everything.
Okay, and along with your, obviously with your very serious activism that you do when you go out and you just record the police, you exercise your rights, sometimes you express your opinions, you also have a very interesting character that you have fabricated on your channel, and I'd like to hear about it. I'm very interested in how this whole grandma idea
Okay.
got started. It's
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious. Whoever is watching, if you haven't seen this guy's grandma bit, it is it is so hilarious. You've got to go check it out. Tell us a little bit about this, please.
Yeah, so I do different characters on my channel to kind of bring the comedy because with anything I've ever done from any of my jobs, I like the lighthearted approach to it and just have fun with things. And why not? I mean, that's the perfect way to exercise your rights. You don't have to be all professional. That's not what freedom is. So I created this character called Grandma, where I get lipstick and I do it all stupid. I wear grandma hair and grandma clothes and crazy stuff like that. But this all started in Colorado from a woman that was violently mistreated by the police. Her name is Karen Garner. She's a 74-year-old that has dementia. She was shopping at Walmart, I guess, and she took a flower and she started walking away. She had dementia. So they were, telling at her, hey, get back here, grandma, blah, blah, blah. We're calling the cops. Well, she met the most violent police as a 74-year-old little 90-pound grandma. Um, they ended up getting her, throwing her to the ground, ripping her arms out of the socket, breaking them, and then throwing her in a cell to just so she could just roll around, whimper in there. And they played the video. They pulled the cameras, and I remember these officers watching this video of the old woman's arm getting broken. You can hear the audible snap of her arm, and they just started laughing about it. They just started laughing about it like evil, straight evil people. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to dress up as an elderly woman just like her, and I'm going to go to that very police department and see if they beat me up for being old. Well, I did that, and I said, oh, are you going to beat me up for being old? And I could see the shame in one of the officers' eyes, just complete shame on him that what his other little boys in blue have done to this old woman. And so that's exactly where Grandma came from, and that has evolved over time to just be a comedic wild character that offers her baggie with a little coke in it and Mary Janes and a bunch of stuff because it's the perfect tool to utilize to show how corrupt and evil these cops actually are, that they're willing to just mess with a grandma like that. And it's just the perfect tool to punk somebody that shouldn't be exerting their power over somebody that doesn't need to be exerted upon. So that's where Grandma came from. Bunch of comedy, a comedic approach in that.
I think that is an incredible story. I remember the story you're talking about, and I think that it's great that you did that, but I love what it's turned into. It's turned into an absolutely hilarious, enjoyable, and like you say, lighthearted way to exercise your rights. And I think that
Yep.
it's brilliant. So, Flex, thank you for coming on today, man. I think that this has been a very productive conversation. I'm glad that we could help get your story out because this is an incredible story. It seems like you live more, it seems like the punishment you've received for exercising your right to free speech has been more akin to what we expect from like North Korea or
Oh yeah.
Soviet era Russia or Germany in the 1940s. And I apologize that you've had to go through this in this country, especially after you were basically recruited to fight for this country. And the way they sell it to you is You're fighting for our freedoms. And then you get back home and you've had to go through what you've had to experience. It's awful. And I think it's shameful.
Yeah, it's so messed up. It's all an illusion, really. But I do appreciate you having me on and helping me get the story out there.
So there you have it, folks. Your government will ask you to lay your life on the line like they did with Bo from the Flex Your Freedoms channel. They will tell you you're fighting to defend the liberties of those back home, and the whole time, back home, the government is actively shredding the Constitution, arresting veterans for exercising their rights. This government is evil. I think we all know that. But for some reason, many people still assume that government officials are still good people. It is obvious that we should treat today's officials with the same contempt that they hold for us and our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Many hold judges, prosecutors, and police up on a pedestal, when it is clear that what they are involved in is a damnable business. My question to you in closing is, how would you feel if you went through what Bo from Flex Your Freedoms went through? Let me know in the comments below. Till next time, I'm Craig Hendry with the Hendry Media Group.